A little while ago, I got to have a sit down with automotive journalist Nicola Hume. It was brilliant getting to learn about her career. So Nicola, it's so lovely to have you here at Bridge Classic Cars.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, virtually at Bridge Classic Cars.
Kind of. Do you know what? I'm really looking forward to the day that I actually have the time to come up and have a good old mooch, because all I've seen is pictures and videos of you, because like whenever you're doing the competitions and stuff, because I've entered a few competitions, I can't lie.
Have you?
Yeah, I've entered a few, but I'd like to come and have a good look.
Did you remember what ones?
It was a Mini. It was a Mini, because I love a classic Mini, and that for me is like a dream classic car for me, to have an old classic Mini. But I didn't win. But what can you do?
So, Nicola, it seems like your career in presenting has just gone from strength to strength to strength. It's amazing. So what was the kind of first almost presenting kind of, was it a voice presenting job that you had? Is it from Heart FM? Because you did the breakfast show at Heart FM for a while.
So in terms of radio, I started off in hospital radio. So I don't know if you've never heard of hospital radio. It's a really cool thing to do if you want to get into radio, because there's tiny little radio stations that's pretty much in every hospital across the UK. And it's a full-blown working proper radio station. And you can learn everything that you need to know about radio presenting, about putting a show together, about driving a desk. And you go around the wards and you ask like the patients what they want to listen to, and you can kind of dedicate your shows to them. So that's kind of how I started in radio. And then from there, like, I got to be a local travel girl at a local radio station called Radio Jackie, which was based in southwest London and Surrey. And I was just living my best life. I mean, again, there's no money in it, but I got to be on the radio and talk about the travel, and I got to cover the breakfast show and all that sort of stuff. So that was really cool.
Amazing.
And then from there, it kind of ended up with Heart FM. So I went to drama school, and, I originally planned to be an actress and all that kind of thing. And that just wasn't working out very well for me. But presenting work just kind of seemed to happen a bit more naturally, I guess.
Oh, cool.
I was getting a few more auditions for that. And I immediately got a job with a company called Lady Geek TV, which was like an online app show about these call apps. And I always had an interest in stuff in technology and things anyway, so it kind of worked out really well for me. So I was kind of running both the radio and the TV stuff either side, and then I ended up just moving from company to company to company.
Right.
So from there, I got poached by O2 and started working for their YouTube channel. And while I was working with them, I got poached by Stuff magazine, which was like the biggest tech magazine in the country, to come and do some really cool stuff. I did some really cool shoots for them. So we went in a stunt plane. We did a whole thing on a trampoline, because I used to do trampolining. We did like indoor skydiving things, like to talk about phones, and it was awesome. And they are run by Haymarket Media, which are basically the same people that run WhatCar.
Oh, okay.
And so while I was working with Stuff, they essentially went to me, "Do you like cars?" I went, "I love cars." And they went, "Do you want to do some stuff with WhatCar?" I went, "Yes." So I kind of started working with them for a little while. And then from there, I then got poached again from Car Buyer, and then moved over to Auto Express, and now with electrifying. And then with the Red Bull thing, that kind of tied in perfectly with radio, because it was my old boss. So this was bonkers, right? My old boss, when I was at Heart, because I was at Heart for 7 years, 6.5, 7 years. And I did the breakfast show for Sussex and Surrey. So this is when there was all local breakfast shows. I loved every second of it. My old boss, once he left the company, then started working for a podcast production company.
Right.
And he sent me a message, and he went, "I hope you don't mind. A friend of mine is making this podcast for this Formula One team. I know you're a fan of Formula One and that you like cars, so I'm just going to throw your name forward. Hope you don't mind." I went, "Yeah, go for it. Yeah, whatever." Because you know what it is.
Yeah.
Your name gets thrown into a hat, and then you don't hear anything ever again. That's pretty standard
stuff. Just go for it anyway. See what happens.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I just kind of forgot about it. And then 2 weeks later, I got an email from a man called Simon, and it said, it said, "Simon, Sony Entertainment." And I went, oh, okay. opened up the email. It said, "Are you free for a video call now?" I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "I'm not prepared for this call whatsoever." Picked up the call, and then he just said to me, he went, "We would like to offer you the Talking Bull Oracle Red Bull Racing podcast." I went,
Oh
"I
my
don't
goodness.
understand what you're saying." We went to the factory. My first episode was with Christian Horner. You know, we just kind of sat there going, "Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll do this, but they're probably going to cut it because it's not going to be good enough." But okay. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting notifications saying Red Bull Racing are now following me on Instagram, and they started tagging me and stuff. And I was like, now the rest is history. Now here we are.
I mean, how did you feel when you first started? If you like,
I
just
mean, so I've always had a love. So I was that person that as soon as I turned 17, I need my license. I need to be on the road. I need to have a car. My
yeah,
dream car was to have a bright yellow Mini. This was back when they. This was so. Oh my God, I'm not trying not to reveal my age, but pretty much my dad has an old Triumph Spitfire, 1974
yeah.
Triumph Spitfire, which goes by the name of Bob, and it's been promised to me. So one day I will have him. But I remember my dad taking me out while I was trying to learn to drive, and he took me out in Bob. We went to a car park to go and sort of practice my gears in an
Yeah.
old 74 classic car, which of course was a really good idea at the time for my dad. Well done. But I there was like a little plastic gear knob, and I snapped the plastic gear knob because I was too forceful with the gears. But I had always been that person that kind of, if there's a nice car, that's me going, oh, tell me
Yeah.
what's going on in here. I need to know everything about this car. So it ended up, I never really realized that I could have had a career in it. I never saw that coming. The more I drive, the more you drive, the more you know.
Yeah.
And especially with modern cars, you know, when I was with Car Buyer, when I was with Auto Express, I was driving a different car every week. So
Hmm.
you end up at a point where you're like, well, I've driven more cars than I've had hot dinners. You know,
Yeah.
I am now, I can have a valid opinion on any car that I drive
Yeah.
because I've basically driven any possible car. And people then were asking me for advice, and I would go, I've driven that car. I can tell you
Yes.
exactly what I think about that car. And it's such a different way of feeling and knowing about how each car works. It's all well and good and kind of knowing the numbers of engines, but unless you've sat behind the wheel and actually experienced it yourself,
Yeah.
then you can't really have an opinion on things, I don't
Hmm.
think. But it is something that, regardless of how much you know in the first place, you end up learning more as you go along anyway. So
Definitely.
you're in a great position to just keep learning more and more. So when I was with Car Buyer, I drove the Kia Sportage,
Hmm.
and I went, this fits my life perfectly. And then I bought myself one.
Oh.
And then, but at that point, I moved over to Auto Express. So then I managed to do a whole video on this car is so great, I bought one, which is true because I loved it. It fit my life perfectly. But I wouldn't say it's not something that I desperately wanted to go out of my way to go and get one. But it
Mhm.
just suited my life perfectly. The size of it, the way it drove, the efficiency of it, all
Mm.
the tech inside it. The main reason I got it was because I fell in love with the Kia EV6, and I loved the layout of the dash, and I loved how it drove, and I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
And the styling, the seats, the quality of the material, all of it. I loved all of it. But I was in a position at the time where I wasn't ready to be fully electric because I didn't have home charging, and I wasn't comfortable with how the charging in Sussex is, because that's where I live in Sussex. And honestly, the charging at the time was pretty shocking.
Right.
So I decided to go for a hybrid. But in terms of other cars, like, I would happily have myself a GR Yaris, happily. I would happily have myself a Toyota Supra, and I would quite happily have a Bentley Flying Spur, you know?
Yeah.
Of course.
All of them.
Uh, it, I would love to have a Porsche Taycan for us, um, and I would like it to be a Cross Turismo as well. That would be great. Can I afford that? No. Or every new car is good.
Yeah.
Every new car is good. You're like, I feel like you can't really drive a modern car and go, well, this is absolute pants. I don't think I have driven a car where I've gone, everything about this car is awful.
But also, gosh, I want to talk to you a little bit more about your Red Bull Talking Bull. Can I ask you, like, who has been the most interesting to talk to? I guess.
Adrian Newey.
Oh, okay.
Hands down, right? So if you follow Formula One, you'll know. So Christian Horner's the team principal, and then you have a guy called Adrian Newey who is, well, I mean, my God, he is like the god of car design. He is Mr. Aerodynamics.
Yeah.
He sees a car and it's like he sees wind that goes around it. He is easily the reason why Red Bull are flying
They're
right
at the
now.
top of their game
Easily.
at the moment, aren't they?
Yes. I remember when we recorded that day, we had about 20 people from Red Bull, from the production company that just came in the room just because they wanted to listen. And a lot of them afterwards were going, wow, we've never heard a lot of those stories that he's just told. And it was such a cool moment just to sit there and find out how his brain works, figure out how he got to where he is today, from studying to, getting his first motorbike, to then working in motorsport, to designing cars, how he sees things, how he does everything so old school with his notebook and pencil and stuff.
Wow. It's so interesting as well, because you have such a wide spectrum of work as well, because you're on the Gadget Show, weren't you? And
oh yeah.
Yes, I've seen your episode about the printers, and I think you just did an absolutely amazing job of making an episode about printers so much fun. I mean, was that your kind of idea to take it to like a joke shop, or?
And they called me up and they went, look. I went, yeah. I went, honestly, this is really exciting to do the Gadget Show. I wonder what gadget I'm going to get. This is so exciting. And they went, you've got printers. And I went, right, okay. And they went, look, if anyone can make printers entertaining, it's you. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. So they had kind of already come up with the idea that we were going to go to a fancy dress shop and I was going to try on all these different outfits and stuff. But then when it came to the day, so I had 2 days shooting with them. So we had the location day where we went to the fancy dress shop. Yeah. And I got to dress in all the different outfits. That was full freedom of Nicola, find an outfit, put it on, do something stupid. So that was great. And then it was about a month later that I went into the studio and did all the studio stuff.
I see.
Which was just really cool to work. And I mean, I've met John Bentley before, and I know Otis from before as well, but it was my first time meeting Craig Charles, which I'm a big Red Dwarf fan, so that was quite an awesome moment for me.
And there's just one more thing I'd like to ask you. I don't know how you feel about this, but have you found that there's been any kind of struggles being a female going into quite a heavily male dominated world, like being the person talking about the cars and bits and bobs like that? I just wondered if you'd ever felt like it's been a struggle, or if it's been fine, or if it's
the thing is, I don't really want to call it a struggle, because I don't think struggle is the right word. It's a
frustrating, yeah.
Because the amount, I mean, you kind of sometimes you look at these comments on YouTube and you're just like, oh my God, we're still here, you're still saying I belong in a kitchen, are you kidding me? I mean, yes, I do, fine, I do cook some dinner sometimes. So I find it frustrating, because still a lot of people question your knowledge. They question your ability to drive just because you're a woman, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But what I'm loving is lately, the change I've noticed recently has been quite big. Good. In motorsport, in automotive, seeing so many more women. Like you saw just a few weeks ago, you saw a female driver that went out on a test drive in an Aston Martin F1. It was amazing to see. And then you've got some more and more ladies. So working with electrifying on their YouTube channel. It's 3 ladies. It's me, Ginny Buckley, Nikki Shields. Yes. We are 3 women working together, knowing what we're talking about, and we're not being stereotypical women. And we're just happen to be women who just happen to love cars, and that's it. And that's how simple it should be. Occasionally, I get the same thing with people. Like if I ever go into a car showroom, people would talk to my husband or talk to my dad, and they don't talk to me. I'm like, I probably have more knowledge than anyone else in this room. You don't even realise it.
Exactly. But there we go. Yeah. But no, it's amazing. I love what you do, and I love the fact that you're the presenter, you're the face, and it's brilliant. It really is. And quickly before you go, the electrifying sounds so exciting. So I watched a video. I need to get the name right because it was the cutest little thing I've ever seen. The Citroen, is it Amy buggy?
Oh, the Amy buggy.
Citroen
Amy buggy, which is basically, so technically it's a quadricycle. because
Right.
it's kind of a mixture of a motorbike and a car, and it's two seats. I say seats; they're basically chairs. They're like that you would find in a village hall, But it does 46 miles of pure electric range. It goes up to 28 mile an hour. There's plastic doors that you can wrap, but they're cracking little things. But I'm getting to drive so many different electric cars, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this, you would love this. So it's essentially a modern electric vehicle, but it's kind of a take on a classic.
Right.
So it's have you seen the Morris JE?
Oh, I don't think I have. Have you heard of
Right, Google the Morris JE, because I can
Morris JE?
guarantee you
Gotcha.
it's an electric camper. I think they haven't put it into full production yet, so it's still technically a
Okay.
concept car, but the version that they have is still drivable. But it's a beauty. It
Oh,
is a beauty. It's you would love it. As a classic car fan, you would love it.
Oh, I'm gonna Google it as soon as we're finished.
It's like I drive an EV now, so I've currently got a Genesis GD60, and that's all I drive now. But I now have a home charger anyway. But even if I'm doing long journeys, stopping and charging is a breeze.
Yeah.
I was that person that had the fear, but now I'm driving EVs on a daily basis, and I'm doing the long distance journeys, and I'm kind of like, oh, well, there we go. So there is major improvement. There is never anything wrong with the cars. It was always the charging infrastructure that was the issue. But it's definitely improving. My God, what a difference. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah.
And going back to our classic roots, so you mentioned a Mini earlier. What is the ultimate pinnacle classic car that you would like to have?
Well, here's the thing. I just want to have my dad's Spitfire, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no power to the thing whatsoever. It's like the slowest car you've ever driven. But I think it's like a 1.5 like liter engine or something. But there's no oomph to it. But it's just the style of it, the shape of it. Like I don't know if you've seen the Craze Brothers movie, but they drove little Spitfires, and I was like, oh, they're just so beautiful, aren't they?
And
Just the style of the bonnet and everything. I think they're lovely.
they're
So my dad's
gorgeous.
got Bob is like he's like a old British racing green, just really beautiful with like beige seating, beige interior.
Lovely.
It's beautiful, and
Gorgeous.
I can't wait to get my hands on it. When
And
I've got it, you'll know I'll be a happy girl.
and also I find as well, like with a classic, it is about kind of the feeling that it gives you as well. I mean, you love the car because your dad loves the car. That is what it's like with most of the people who come and visit us. It's always like, oh, my mum used to have that car, or my dad used to have that car. I remember going on holiday in that car. It's all about the
Yeah.
feel, not just the car itself, which I think is really amazing about classics.
Well, I'll tell you what. So when I do get the time to come up to Suffolk to come and see you guys, I'll bring my dad along, and we'll come up in Bob. We'll
That
make
would
sure
be
he does the journey
amazing.
to come up for the day.
We would absolutely love that. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Nicola. It's been absolutely amazing learning about your history and what got you into cars and just everything that you do now. It's just epic. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely to chat to you too, and I love your videos. So keep doing it, and I'm going to keep entering all the competitions. I will win
You.
something one day.
Yeah, one day. I mean, you've got to. So statistically.
Yeah. Come on.